I went into the office today and I was talking to my colleagues and I told them that I had been on the phone talking to a friend of mine who lives in Minneapolis. And did you know that it's been snowing there? The snow is like up to the knee and it just keeps snowing, it keeps coming down. And my friend's husband is standing and just looking through the window. That's what he's been doing all day. And she said to me, you know, if the weather keeps up like this, I'm gonna have to let him in. The dump. The ethics of humor in the workplace. So, laughter is the best medicine. Humor is essential to a good life, and it's essential to the workplace as well. So it's also the case that laughter is good medicine because there have been studies that show that our endorphins go up when we laugh, our heart rate and our blood pressure goes down, and our tension is released. So this is a really good thing. And it's also the case that when you look at the studies, you see that you can actually lose weight by laughing. You can lose about 4 pounds a year if you laugh about 10 to 15 minutes a day, okay? So this is a good thing. But there's a slide that comes up that also shows that sometimes you can go too far when it comes to humor, right? The humor that we can tell can be something like, it can be jokes, it can be innuendos, it can be, sarcasm, these different kinds of things. One of the puns I told today in the workplace was, everybody's gambling now because of all of the big, behemoths that you can get a lot of money. So I actually submitted 10 jokes to a contest, 10 puns, in order to see which one would win. And no pun intended. You get it? Okay, that's pretty bad. I never said my jokes would be good. I just said I'd be telling jokes. In any case, sometimes you can go too far. The humor can go too far, and you can hit the ethics of a situation. And, ethics is about trying to make people feel good, right? And you want to make people laugh. You want to make them feel happy. You want to make them feel happy as opposed to make them cry. You want to make people feel respected as opposed to disrespected and demeaning them. And humor sometimes can go too far in that regard. So we have to have some tool that we can use in order to figure out when the humor is appropriate and when it isn't. And there's actually something called a Journal of Humor Research. Yeah, there are academicians that work on this. And there's an article in one of the episodes that provides a tool. And it's a tool that can help us, if we keep it front of mind, really figure out when we're telling appropriate humor and when we're telling inappropriate humor. And this tool is a matrix. And it's a matrix that's built on 4 building blocks. One is the self, one is others, the other is positive, and the other is negative. So you put those 4 building blocks together and you have a matrix, okay? And so let's use this matrix to kind of go through them in order to see which kind of humor can be appropriate and what isn't. So if you put the self together with the positive, you have something called self-enhancing humor. So an example of self-enhancing humor might be, I'm working on the budget with my staff. And we're all just tired, and I say something like, let's just put this together. So you got 10 oranges in this hand, and you have 8 oranges in this hand. What do you have? You have big hands. Once again, it's self-enhancing, it's positive, and it's about the self. About a month ago, I spent some time just giggling to myself because I changed my email address. I turned it into ethicsqueen@businessethics.com. You could do these kinds of things in order to make yourself laugh and other people laugh too. This is self-enhancing humor. The other kind of humor, you go down to the right, and it's self-defeating humor, or self-defeating. So here it might be the case that I tell a joke that's something like, what's the difference between a pizza and a PhD in philosophy? Well, a pizza can actually feed a family of 4. By the way, my PhD is in philosophy. So it's about myself, I'm saying something negative. And you do that sometimes to relieve pressure, and that can be okay. But have you all seen the new ad campaign for Nebraska? Here we go. This is lucky for you, there's nothing to do here. This is called self-deprecating humor, right? And sometimes, it's not like there's anything immoral with it, right? But there's something kind of weird about it. If you really like Nebraska, you're just kind of put off by that. Go, well, why are you dissing me? So that kind of the self-defeating or self-deprecating kind of moves into the direction of there being something kind of weird and something wrong about that. Go on over to the negative and directed at others, aggressive humor. This is really the dark side. And this is where you really are doing something that is really demeaning and negative about another person or a group of people. So I'm sure all of you were attached to your TVs, or at least you went home and watched the Kavanaugh Ford testimonies, right? This is historic stuff. And then after the testimonies, did anybody watch the Saturday Night Live skit of Matt Damon, who was Kavanaugh? Okay? Some people love that. They just so funny. I mean, you're just laughing the whole time, right? Did you show it in the workplace? What would happen if you showed that in the workplace? And you ask yourself the question, what would happen if Kavanaugh was sitting next to you watching that thing? And if he would be uncomfortable with that and you would be uncomfortable having sitting next to you, that tells you that there's something you're going really into the dark side there. You're going into the negativity, okay? So it may be the case you play that stuff at home and you laugh with your friends, but you don't tend to do that kind of stuff in the workplace, okay? Another example of aggressive humor, just very quickly, is where you make distinctions between yourself and others in the workplace. So it's an us versus them. So you make fun of your boss by acting like your boss, like, behavior that's kind of inappropriate. Another is, how many of you here are accountants? Would you raise your hands? A few accountants, put your hands down. How many of you are lawyers? Raise your hands. A few of you are lawyers, put your hands down. So what's the difference between accountants and lawyers? Well, at least accountants know they're boring. That's aggressive humor, right? And you might laugh at it, but if you're a lawyer, you're going, well, God, jeez. You go up to then the affiliative humor. This is positive and directed at others. And so this is one where really it's team building. You're trying to do something that brings people together. And an example of this is where you give pet names to each other. I mean, you do this as a group. Now, you have to be careful about what those pet names are because it may be the case that somebody has larger ears. You don't want to call that person Dumbo. But, but together as a group, you want to give these pet names and then call each other these pet names. Another example of affiliative humor, and this is the last one, is, why is it the case that the accounting department is the best accounting department to work in? Because everybody counts. That don't. So, humor in the workplace, bring it on. It really helps us. It's really good for team building, etc. And leaders know the difference between the negative and the positive and the self versus others. And you can put that matrix before your mind in order to be able to figure out and role model for each other the kind of humor that you're going to use in the workplace. And when you make a mistake, when it comes to humor, you say you're sorry. And when somebody makes a mistake with you, you accept their apology and you give them redemption. Because as a matter of fact, the next time the mistake is made, it may be yours. Thank you very much.